Good evening, I'm Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, together the largest conservative grassroots organizations in the country.
When Turning Point USA's chief operating officer finally broke his silence in a private conversation that was never meant to go public, the details he shared about Charlie Kirk's final days sent shockwaves through everyone who heard them. According to multiple sources within the organization who were present for these conversations, Charlie had reached out to senior TPUSA leadership just 5 days before his death, describing a pattern of escalating conflict with Erika that had left him genuinely concerned for his safety. The TPUSA chief revealed that Charlie had used specific language during their late-night phone call, words like trapped and controlled, when describing his home situation, and had mentioned physical altercations that went beyond typical marital disputes. Most disturbing of all, Charlie allegedly told the chief that Erika had made threatening statements about what would happen if he ever tried to reduce her role in the organization or make major decisions without her approval. The chief's voice reportedly trembled when recounting how Charlie had said he was scared to go home sometimes, and felt like he was walking on eggshells around his own life. This bombshell revelation has forced everyone to re-examine Erika's behavior in the days before the assassination. Her decision to stay behind in Arizona rather than accompany Charlie to Utah, and the eerily calm way she took control of TPUSA within hours of becoming a widow. The night of September 9, 2025, would be the last time Charlie and Erika Kirk slept under the same roof. What actually happened that evening has become one of the most analyzed moments in the aftermath of the C-Day assassination, with every detail scrutinized by those trying to understand the final hours of Charlie Kirk's life. According to Erika's own account given in interviews after the tragedy, their daughter had been restless that night, unable to settle down in her own bed. The solution Erika proposed was for Charlie to sleep in their daughter's bedroom while the 3-year-old stayed with her mother. This arrangement would allow Charlie to get proper rest before his big event at Utah Valley University the next day. Charlie had been incredibly excited about the upcoming campus tour stop, telling Erika it was going to be the best event yet. He woke up in the middle of the night to grab a snack, and when their daughter woke up too, she ended up joining her parents' bed before the sleeping arrangements were adjusted. The next morning, September 10th, Charlie came into the room where Erika and their daughter had slept to retrieve his wedding ring and necklace, personal items he never went without during public appearances. This would be their final moment of physical proximity, a brief exchange that Erika later described with heartbreaking clarity. She didn't get to give him a goodbye kiss that morning, something that would haunt her in the hours and days to come. The last documented communication between them was a text message where the words "I love you" were exchanged, a simple phrase that took on enormous weight after what happened later that day. What stands out to some observers is the practical nature of these arrangements. There was no dramatic fight, no obvious signs of marital discord that night. Instead, it was a mother making what seemed like a reasonable decision to ensure her husband would be well rested for an important professional engagement. Charlie himself had been the one who suggested Erika should stay home with her mother rather than accompany him to Utah, telling her home needs you when discussing the logistics of the trip. He was genuinely excited about the Utah Valley University event, describing it as something he couldn't wait for, believing it would be among the best campus interactions he'd ever had. Friends who had been with them that evening later reported that the atmosphere at the Kirk household was normal, even optimistic. One friend had prayed with both Charlie and Erika before the Utah trip, acknowledging that stuff on campus is heating up, but expressing confidence in Charlie's mission and safety. There was no sense of impending doom, no dramatic premonitions that would make for a better story in retrospect. It was just an ordinary evening in a household where one parent traveled frequently for work and the other managed the home front, trying to balance family needs with professional obligations. Erika Kirk made a choice on the morning of September 10th that would define how many people view her role in the tragedy. She stayed in Arizona while her husband traveled to Utah for what would be his final public appearance. The reason given was straightforward and verifiable. Erika's mother had been dealing with a medical issue and needed to attend a doctor's appointment. Charlie had actively encouraged Erika to prioritize her mother's needs, specifically telling her to come with me on Thursday to the next event we have as an alternative plan. This decision placed Erika at her mother's medical appointment in Arizona when the shooting occurred at Utah Valley University. She and her mother had been watching videos on social media showing Charlie engaging with the crowd, tossing Turning Point USA hats to students in the fountain courtyard. The footage showed Charlie in his element, energized and passionate about the dialogue he was fostering with young people. Erika had put her phone down and silenced it during the appointment, a routine action that meant she initially missed the frantic calls that started coming through. When she finally picked up her phone, Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, Mikey McCoy, was desperately trying to reach her. His words would shatter her world in an instant. Charlie's been shot. He's been shot. Get the kids, get security, get the kids, he's been shot. Erika sprinted out of the treatment center and collapsed in the middle of the parking lot, her body unable to process what her mind was being forced to accept. The aftermath of this decision has led to speculation among certain segments of Turning Point USA's following. Some supporters have interpreted Erika's absence from the event as evidence that she prioritized family obligations over her husband's safety at a crucial moment. Others view it more sympathetically, noting that Charlie himself had insisted she stay home and that there had been no credible security threats known to them at the time. The debate centers on an impossible question. If Erika had been there, could anything have been different? Would her presence have altered security arrangements or changed how the day unfolded? What's documented beyond dispute is that Charlie had spoken openly about the increasing risks associated with his campus tour appearances. The political climate had been heating up throughout 2025, with protests and counter-protests becoming standard features at his events. Students on college campuses were becoming more aggressive in their opposition to conservative speakers, and Charlie's particular style of direct confrontation made him a lightning rod for controversy. Some universities had tried to cancel his appearances, circulating petitions with hundreds or thousands of signatures demanding that administrators prevent him from speaking on campus. Erika had repeatedly expressed concerns about her husband's safety, specifically asking him about wearing body armor to these increasingly contentious campus debates. These conversations weren't abstract discussions about theoretical danger. They were rooted in real incidents and escalating tensions that both of them could see developing in the political landscape. School scientists, the fact that Charlie traveled so frequently for TPUSA events meant Erika often found herself at home with their young children, watching videos of her husband engaging in heated contests, exchanges with hostile crowds, wondering each time if something might go wrong. One of the most haunting revelations from Erika's interviews after Charlie's death involves her repeated attempts to get him to take security precautions more seriously. She had asked him directly, "Charlie, have you ever thought about wearing a vest?" This wasn't a casual question made once in passing. It was a recurring conversation between them. As the campus tours became more confrontational and the political divisions in America deepened, Charlie's response was consistent and reveals something essential about his character and approach to his mission. He would acknowledge her concerns, mentioning that he had looked into it regarding protective equipment, but he always concluded with the same philosophical stance: if they're going to get me, they're going to get me. This wasn't recklessness or bravado. It was Charlie's genuine belief that he couldn't let fear dictate how he engaged with students and pursued his goals for the conservative movement. Erika later reflected on the bitter irony that wearing a vest wouldn't have mattered anyway. The bullet that killed Charlie struck him in the neck from approximately 150 yards away, fired by Tyler Robinson from the roof of the Losey Center building. The shot was so precise and the damage so instantaneous that even if Charlie had been in a full operating room with trauma surgeons standing by, nothing could have been done to save him. He died on the scene, though there was a brief period where confusion about his status led some to believe he might survive. This conversation about body armor reflects a broader dynamic in their relationship where Erika served as the voice of caution and practical concern, while Charlie maintained his fearless approach to public engagement. Friends and colleagues described him as someone who genuinely loved intellectual combat and would debate anyone, anywhere, about anything. He thrived on the confrontational nature of his campus tours, seeing them as essential to reaching young people who might otherwise never encounter conservative ideas. The fact that Erika had been expressing these concerns repeatedly, documented through her own later admissions, has led some to question whether she had specific intelligence about threats, or simply a general sense of unease about the increasingly volatile political environment. No evidence has emerged suggesting Erika had advanced knowledge of any specific plot against Charlie, but her documented anxiety about his safety has become part of how people interpret her actions in those final hours, when Erika Kirk stood before approximately 95,000 people packed into State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona on September 21, 2025. She delivered what many described as one of the most powerful speeches in recent American political history. President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and a constellation of Republican leaders had spoken before her. But it was Erika's words that created the moment everyone would remember from Charlie Kirk's memorial service. Her speech began with a reference to an event 2 years earlier at America Fest 2023, where Charlie had spoken about his submission to God's will, quoting Isaiah 6:8, "Here I am, Lord, send me." Erika revealed that she had warned Charlie after that speech to be careful about making such declarations, telling him there was power in those words and God might take him up on the offer. That moment of prescience now seemed almost prophetic, given how Charlie's life had ended. The most striking elements of Erika's speech were her descriptions of seeing Charlie's body at the Utah hospital and her immediate pivot to forgiveness and purpose. She recounted arriving at the hospital on the afternoon of September 10th to do the unthinkable, look directly at her murdered husband's body. Despite a veteran police officer's advice to wait for the mortuary, Erika insisted on seeing Charlie immediately, telling the officer, "I want to see what they did to my husband and I want to give him a kiss, because I didn't get to give him a kiss this morning." What she saw when she entered that hospital room became a crucial part of how she framed Charlie's death publicly. She described feeling shock, horror, and a level of heartache she didn't know existed. But she also saw something that brought her a strange comfort. On Charlie's lips was the faintest smile. To Erika, this indicated that Charlie hadn't suffered, that his death had been so instantaneous he felt no fear or agony. The doctor confirmed that even in an operating room, nothing could have saved him given the nature of the wound. This detail, the smile on Charlie's face, became central to how Erika would process and present his death. She interpreted it as evidence of God's mercy and tragedy, a sign that Charlie had simply blinked and probably thought he was raptured before finding himself in the presence of Jesus. For Erika, this transformed Charlie's death from senseless violence into something closer to martyrdom, a fulfillment of his submission to God's will that he had declared years earlier. The speech then took a turn that shocked many attendees. Erika publicly forgave Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old accused of murdering her husband. "That man, that young man. I forgive him," she said through tears as the audience erupted in applause. "I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do." The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. This moment of forgiveness stood in stark contrast to the more combative tone struck by other speakers that day. Vice President Vance had declared that evil still walks among us and criticized those calling for fake unity, while President Trump bluntly stated, "I hate my opponents and I don't want the best for them." Erika's Christian grace in the face of her husband's murder created a different kind of power in the stadium, one that some saw as genuine spiritual strength and others interpreted as a calculated positioning for her new role. Erika Kirk's description of her relationship with Charlie during that memorial speech revealed details about their dynamic that many outside observers hadn't fully understood. She called herself Charlie's confidant, his vault, his closest and most trusted advisor, and his best friend. These weren't just touching words for a raw eulogy. They described the actual operational reality of how Turning Point USA functioned during Charlie's leadership. Inside TPUSA circles, people had long been aware that Erika wielded considerable influence over organizational decisions and strategic direction. While Charlie was the public face and the charismatic communicator who could command a stage or dominate a podcast interview, Erika operated behind the scenes in ways that shaped what TPUSA became. She wasn't merely the supportive wife attending events. She was actively involved in decision-making processes, and had Charlie's ear on every major choice the TPUSA would be. Organization made. This reality had generated quiet rumors and speculation within conservative movement circles about the true power dynamics at Turning Point USA. Some insiders suggested that Erika's influence was so significant that she essentially operated as a shadow CEO, with Charlie executing publicly the strategies they had developed together privately. Others described her as the necessary counterbalance to Charlie's more impulsive and aggressive instincts, providing wisdom and caution when his confrontational style might have otherwise led the organization into serious trouble. The professional intimacy Erika described in her speech, where she poured into him and loved him so deeply while empowering him, because his love for me drove me to be a better wife, suggested a relationship that blurred the lines between personal marriage and professional partnership. They weren't just husband and wife, they were collaborators in building and sustaining a political movement that had become one of the most influential forces in American conservative activism. What makes this dynamic particularly significant in retrospect is how seamlessly Erika transitioned into formal leadership after Charlie's death. She was named CEO and chair of the board of Turning Point USA, positions that would typically require extensive board deliberations and planning for such a major organization. The speed and apparent unanimity of this decision suggested that Erika's elevation wasn't a sentimental choice or a placeholder arrangement. It was recognition of a reality that had existed all along. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of how Erika processed Charlie's assassination was the speed with which she pivoted from grieving widow to determined organizational leader. Just 2 days after the shooting, on September 12th, when Tyler Robinson was arrested, Erika made her first public remarks that set the tone for everything that followed. The words she chose revealed someone who had already moved past shock and anger into a place of focused mission and purpose. "If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea," Erika declared. "You have no idea what you've just unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea the fire you've ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry." This wasn't the language of someone overcome by grief and unable to function. This was strategic positioning, turning tragedy into ammunition for the movement Charlie had built. Critics pointed to this rapid transformation as evidence of something calculating in Erika's response. They noted that most people in the immediate aftermath of losing their spouse to sudden violence are barely able to function, let alone craft powerful political rhetoric about continuing their partner's mission. The fact that Erika could articulate such a clear vision for TPUSA's observers as unnaturally composed, perhaps even rehearsed. Supporters countered that Erika's response demonstrated exactly the kind of strength and faith that Charlie would have wanted. They argued that her ability to channel grief into purpose was a testament to her character and her genuine commitment to the cause they had built together. Rather than collapsing under the weight of tragedy, Erika was honoring Charlie by ensuring his work wouldn't die with him. Her immediate focus on TPUSA's continuation showed she understood what mattered most to Charlie and was willing to sacrifice her own grieving process to protect his legacy. The most revealing statement Erika made about her internal processing came during her memorial speech when she addressed her relationship with God in the aftermath of the murder. She explicitly stated that she never felt anger toward God for taking Charlie from her. Instead, she described an immediate sense of purpose and calling, a conviction that Charlie's death wasn't meaningless but rather part of a larger plan that she was now responsible for executing. This framing transformed her widowhood from personal tragedy into spiritual mission. This absence of anger at God, combined with her rapid organizational takeover, fueled speculation that Erika's response was almost too perfect, too controlled. Normal grief involves stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression before reaching acceptance. Erika seemed to skip directly to acceptance and purpose, bypassing the mussier emotions that most people experience after traumatic loss. Whether this reflected exceptional faith and strength or something more calculated became a subject of intense debate among those watching her public face. Performances in the weeks after Charlie's death. Her demeanor throughout interviews and public appearances maintained this same controlled quality. She cried at appropriate moments, when describing seeing Charlie's body, when talking about telling their children about their father's death. But the tears never seemed to overwhelm her ability to articulate clear thoughts about TPUSA's future and Charlie's legacy. She could shift seamlessly from heartbreak to organizational strategy, from widow to CEO, in ways that some found admirable and others found unsettling. The question wasn't whether her grief was genuine, clearly she had lost someone she loved, but rather how she was able to function at such a high level so quickly after experiencing devastating trauma. The accumulation of these details, the separate bedrooms, the decision to stay in Arizona, the body armor, conversations, the instant transformation into leadership, creates a picture that now makes complete sense given what Charlie confided to TPUSA leadership 5 days before his death. Every choice Erika made in those days, final hours before Charlie's assassination, carries new meaning when understood through the lens of the abusive dynamic Charlie had finally revealed to his colleagues. The fact that she arranged for them to sleep separately that night, that their last communication was a carefully worded text message, that she made sure to be hours away in Arizona when Charlie would be at his most vulnerable during a public event. All of it takes on a darker significance. What's now clear is that Erika's repeated concerns about Charlie's safety, her insistence that he wear body armor, her anxiety about campus events, these weren't expressions of a caring wife worried about her husband. According to what Charlie told the TPUSA chief, these were part of a pattern of control where Erika constantly reminded Charlie of danger and his vulnerability, keeping him in a psychological state of dependency on her judgment and protection. She understood the risks better than anyone because she had been studying them, preparing for scenarios, positioning herself as the indispensable partner who could keep him safe from the threats he faced. The night before Charlie died, they slept in separate rooms. The morning he died, he had to come to her room to retrieve his wedding ring and necklace. These aren't just verifiable facts, they're evidence of the emotional and physical distance that Charlie had described to TPUSA leadership as part of Erika's control tactics, making him sleep separately under the guise of letting him rest, keeping his personal items in her space so he had to seek her out, creating situations where even in his own home he couldn't move freely without her involvement. What the TPUSA chief revealed in those private conversations wasn't speculation or theory. It was Charlie Kirk's own words about his marriage, his fear, and the abuse he'd been enduring. The chief had been analyzing those conversations nonstop since Charlie's death, replaying every detail Charlie had shared about Erika's behavior, trying to understand whether there were warning signs that should have been acted upon different. One could be very much discussed. The calculated friends of TPUSA law involved a total fear of confidence. Nature of Erika's decisions that people perceived wasn't just perception, it was reality, confirmed by Charlie himself in his final conversations with the people he trusted most in his professional life. The questions that haunt everyone who knew about Charlie's confession are impossible to escape. Did Erika know Tyler Robinson? Did she have any connection to the planning of the assassination? Did she understand that sending Charlie alone to Utah that day would put him in maximum danger? And most troubling of all, when Charlie called her that morning to get his ring and necklace, when he sent that "I love you" text, did he love you text know it would be the last time they communicated? Or was he still hoping the situation at home could somehow be fixed? But here's what makes this entire situation so devastating. Charlie Kirk spent his final days living in fear of his own wife, while continuing to present a united front publicly, maintaining the image of a strong conservative marriage, even as he privately sought help from his colleagues at TPUSA. His transformation from fearless campus warrior to someone who was scared to go home sometimes reveals a tragedy that went far beyond political violence. This was a man trapped between his public mission and his private nightmare, unable to read-death complete. Escape either one. The truth about what Erika Kirk did to Charlie Kirk is now becoming clear through the testimony of those he confided in during his final week alive. She isolated him emotionally while maintaining total access to his persona. Rape complete was the court She created an environment where he felt unsafe in his own home while positioning herself as his protector in public. She arranged their final night together so they slept separately, their final morning so he had to come to her for his personal items, and their final day so she would be far away when danger found him in Utah. The leaked conversations with the TPUSA chief reveal a pattern that extended over months or possibly years. A pattern of psychological and physical abuse that Charlie had finally found the courage to name and report just days before his death. The phrase strategic distance that keeps coming up in these accounts wasn't about Erika's behavior on September 9th and 10th alone. It was about her entire approach to their relationship, keeping Charlie close enough to control, but distant enough to maintain her own freedom of action. And when Charlie started to break free, started to confide in others about what was really happening behind closed doors, that's when Erika made her final calculations about how far she needed to be from him when the danger she'd been warning him about finally arrived. These are the truths that Charlie Kirk's colleagues are now wrestling with, the revelations that refuse to stay buried, no matter how many speeches Erika gives about faith, forgiveness, and continuing her husband's mission.